Good afternoon. My name is Hayden. I'm the founder of TinyChain. TinyChain is an open source runtime for cloud services. If you're not sure what that means, don't worry, because no one does. It's the first of a new category of things. So let me take a minute and explain what that means. So a runtime in computer science just refers to the platform that makes sure that your apps still run the same, even on a different device. So if, for example, when you get a new smartphone, the Android or the iOS runtime is what makes sure that the App Store can install all your old apps and they still work the same, even on a new device. The reason why there is no App Store for cloud services, meaning software that runs on a server, is because there is no standard runtime for cloud services. So this has some very practical consequences for you as investors, because if you invest in a software as a service company, that means that most of your dollars going into each individual company are going to pay a team of developers to write functionally the same code to tie together each of the services in their tech stack. And the reason that I know that is because that was my job when I worked at venture-backed startups in New York. Most of those venture dollars went to pay developers like me to write the same glue code over and over and over again. When I started at Goldman Sachs, I was shocked to find that they did things the same way, even though practically all of their services were developed in-house. In order to get into Google, I had to pass a battery of tests to make sure that I could push forward the state-of-the-art in data structure and algorithm and systems design, only to find that my job there was the same thing, to just write the same glue code over and over and over again to glue together the different internal services at Google. So TinyChain is the solution. It's first of all a solution for developers to make sure they're not writing that same repetitive code over and over again. It's a solution for their employers to make sure they're not spending a lot on a little, and it's a solution for their investors to make sure that their investment dollars are not just immediately flowing out to someone else as revenue. And TinyChain achieves that by formalizing existing ad hoc standards at the protocol level to automate away that manual coding task of service integration. So right now we're in phase 1 of our business development strategy, which is charging for support. That's the same business model as a lot of open source databases, like MongoDB is probably the most well-known. We've generated about $30,000 in revenue so far. We want to take that up to about $50,000 in monthly recurring revenue before shifting our focus to phase 2, which is charging for hosting. We have a waiting list of several early-stage startups, 3 accelerator programs, and a scientific advisory firm. For stage 2, we are also working with a professional network of CTOs to develop that pipeline further. We believe we can take that up to about $100K in monthly recurring revenue before shifting focus to stage 3, which is our long-term revenue driver, which is just collecting a share of the revenue that's flowing through the App Store. So our next step is to seed the ecosystem with the first foundational services that our customers will use to build their products, which includes our user and group identity management service that powers our distributed chain of custody for cloud data. It also includes utilities to train and serve machine learning models that are auditable based on that identity data, as well as to deploy those services to customer data centers and still do metered billing, even though they're running in the customer data center. A great case study in how the business works today is Wildcats. It's a company that serves first-time entrepreneurs in the US and Southeast Asia. Wildcats needed original features, meaning they couldn't just plug in an off-the-shelf API, and TinyChain is able to offer those features at 1/10 of the market cost, primarily due to our savings in terms of development and operation costs, but also because the lifetime value of Wildcats as a customer isn't just their initial development spending, it's also revenue from hosting in phase 2, and it's also revenue from other companies using the same apps that were originally developed for Wildcats via the App Store in phase 3. Those problems that TinyChain solves are big unsolved problems in the industry. So I'm sure you've all heard this year about ChatGPT. What you may not know is that when it came out, ChatGPT was actually banned at a lot of big companies. It was even banned for a while in the entire country of Italy. Even the enterprise version of ChatGPT is still banned today at a lot of big companies like JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Northrop Grumman, companies that have very specific regulatory requirements for how they share data, even within the company. And that's because ChatGPT does not keep track of the data that it collects. Another company with a very similar problem that you may have heard of is Facebook. Facebook has paid on average $1 billion per year in fines for 6 years running. They paid over $300 million in fines just so far this year because they keep losing track of parts of their consumer data set. So we've raised about $75,000 so far. We're raising a further $175,000. That's primarily to develop that initial set of services for the App Store, but it's also to develop our UI toolkit and formalize our sales pipeline. It's been an incredible journey so far, watching our open source project come together from an all-volunteer staff of contributors, but we're just getting started with TinyChain. And I want to invite you all to come on this journey with us as we become the catalyst for our customers to fulfill their mission. Thank you. I'll be around all day. Please come talk to me. Thank you.